Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us to another session hosted by the Spain US Chamber of Commerce. As always, it is a pleasure to bring together professionals and business leaders that help us to understand better the facts and the trends that are shaping the future in the business landscape. My name is Mirella, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. The webinar is held in collaboration with Inspiralia. But before we begin with the webinar, and for those that are joining us for the first time, let me briefly introduce the Spanish Chamber of Commerce. We are a non-profit organization dedicated to helping businesses expand into the United States through international consulting, event opportunities, and informative sessions like the one that we are having today. If you would like to learn more about our services and events, you can visit our website, that is www.spainuschamber.com, and it's going to appear right now under your chat. In our website, you will find all our activities and events, so we keep you updated about everything that's going on around the Spain US Chamber of Commerce. And coming back to the webinar, just a quick mention that in this session, we're gonna actually record this session, and you're gonna be able to watch it again or share with colleagues or friends who you think might find this helpful. At the end of the session, we will open a Q&A segment, so feel free to submit your questions at any time using the tab questions or preguntas if you have it in Spanish, that is located in the right side of your control panel. And I was mentioning early, today's webinar is presented in collaboration with Inspiralia. They are a global consulting firm that helps startups and innovative companies access non-dilutive funding through programs like SBIR, STTR, and they are in the market for 20 years. So they have a very strong track record of successful proposals. Inspiralia helps companies access to $1 or $2 million in the US federal funding without debt or equity lost. They help startups every step of the way, from finding the right funding opportunities to preparing strong proposals and managing the grant when it is awarded. Beyond funding, Inspiralia also provides R&D support to turn innovative ideas into market-ready products. Today, we are delighted to welcome two experts from Inspiralia. We have Fernando Hernández. Thank you so much for being with us today, Fernando.
Thank you, Mirella.
Fernando is the Vice President of Sales and Operations at Inspiralia USA. He has extensive experience in financial consulting and has played a key role in expanding Inspiralia's presence in the US market. Fernando is passionate about mentoring startups and building a strategic partnership across the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We also have Mirella Dagnano. Sorry, Mirella. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
She is the senior consultant at Inspiralia with more than 8 years of experience in public funding initiatives. She also had numerous startups and SMEs secure grants, navigate complex funding landscapes, and cooperate and coordinate multinational projects. Thank you, both of you, for being with us today. We are so glad that you are here and we can introduce you to our members. Without further ado, please go ahead. The floor is to you and start with your presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mirella, for the introduction and all the information. So quickly, just to add on what we do at Inspiralia. So yes, what Mirella mentioned, we're a global company here in the US specifically. We're focused on helping startups access non-dilutive funding, and we do that through the SBIR and the STTR program. Now, what does those letters mean? SBIR basically stands for Small Business Innovation Research. STTR is Small Business Technology Transfer. and we're going to see in this presentation the difference between those two. But the main the main information or the key is that this is the largest source of federal funding provided by the government when it comes to early stage research and development for small businesses. This is backed by the Small Business Administration. As you can see there, it has an annual budget. Right now it's a little over $4.5 billion. And there are 11 agencies that participate in this program. So what happens is each agency gets basically from that $4.5 billion budget, a chunk of that. You can see some of the agencies on the bottom part of this slide. And I think I do have to mention that from that entire budget, almost half goes to the Department of Defense. The other half is split between the other 10 agencies. It's not a really fair split, but that's just the way that it works. But yeah, as you can see, there's from Department of Agriculture to National Institutes of Health, NASA, National Science Foundation, Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Energy. So it really covers the whole, whatever type of technology you're trying to develop, there's going to be an agency that is going to be interested in what you're doing. It's just a matter of understanding what their goals are and whether it aligns with what you're trying to develop. And if so, well, then this is a great source of funding. They take zero equity from your company. It's a grant. This isn't a loan. You don't have to pay it back. The way that you pay it back, or the purpose of the program, and we can go more in detail in the next few slides, is they're trying to fund projects that are still in a high risk, let's say, stage of development, that investors are still not willing to commit to putting any money on the development of this technology. So through this program, they try and fill that gap and take it to at least a prototype that you can now show investors, and that way get that final push to take it to market. So how do you pay it back? Well, eventually they see the potential in your company of growing and being able to hire, down the line, 10 years, a good number of employees, and that's gonna be eventually the way that you pay it back. Then the last point here is that all of the project costs are covered through this grant. It's not, if you're familiar with some of these contracts and government opportunities, a lot of times there is some cost sharing involved from the entire budget that your company basically has to put in. In this case, now 100% is covered by the agencies through the grant, and it even allows that small commercial margin. They call it profit fee or small business percentage fee. It's typically between 7 to 10% of the grant that you can use on other expenses that are not directly related to the research project. Now, on the next slide, well, we talk about the key benefits of we already mentioned, right? So you're not giving up any equity. It can help you with those risky costs involved with, you have this idea, you want to take it to at least prove whether it's something that is feasible or not. Maybe in theory that it should work, but you haven't done those tests yet. So they're going to help you cover those expensive to go through those trials, those testing, prototyping, and like I said, the idea is to cover that gap where the project is still considered too risky. Investors are not willing yet to commit and put any money on this type of technology yet. So this program, the aim is to help you at that stage. Also, another important fact here is what is mentioned at the end. You actually get to keep not just your equity, but the intellectual property. The only thing that might happen is that, particularly in the case of, for instance, the Department of Defense, if it's a technology that the agency is really interested in, they might offer you a procurement contract. So now you might become a prime vendor in this case of DoD. But again, you keep the ownership of your intellectual property. Now, who is eligible? As we've been saying, this is for small businesses. Now, that's very broad, meaning that it's anything that, as long as you don't have more than 500 employees, you qualify. Also, obviously, this is a key factor. The company has to be based in the US. Not only that, but the activities to be performed and the money you're going to use has to be spent on American soil. So this applies to your employees, and this applies to the subcontractors that you might work with throughout the project. They all have to be based in the US. Another important factor or requirement is that the ownership of the company, it has to be owned in majority by US citizens or legal permanent residents in the US. And this can be also a combination of the owners, as long as you between 2 or 3 co-founders you get to that 50% ownership, then you are eligible to apply. And then this is what they're looking for, these agencies through this program, is the most really the most attractive and innovative technologies and solutions that are not available in the market. The whole idea, the point really is to find those solutions that are going to disrupt their market, and you're really proposing something new that hasn't been done before, or if it's been done before, maybe not successfully. What I'm trying to say with this is that this is not you have to be bringing something new in order to be a good fit for this program. And then the last part, that most of this funding is going to go to salaries, your team and whoever is involved in the research and development activities. So they need to be W-2 employees. If you don't have W-2 employees and they're going to be in the project, they will have to be 1099s, and this means they're subcontractors. And we don't mention it here, but there is actually a limit, at least from the SBIR side of things, of how much you can subcontract. It's 33% of your phase 1 and 50% of your phase 2. But basically, you need to at least have 1 W-2 employee. Otherwise, you're not able to be eligible. And then the last component is you need to have facilities where the work is going to be done. This is not necessarily for the moment that you're preparing and submitting your proposal, but before you're granted the award, you have to have a space where you can do the work. Okay, so now let's go to the key differences between the SBIR and STTR. The main one really is SBIR, you're the solo applicant as a small business, and STTR, you're working with a research institute, and it's most of the time it's going to be a university. Why go that route? Well, basically, it depends on the stage of development of your company. If you don't have access to facilities, if you don't have a technical team that covers all of the capabilities that are required to perform the specific project, then it might make sense to partner with a university, and they can give you access to those facilities. They can have the team that can help you run the project. Now, a very important thing to keep in mind, they don't do this for free. So at least 30% of your grant is going to go to the university, to your partner in this case, and you're going to have as an STTR, you're going to have a co-PI, a co-principal investigator, so someone from the university, and then you will be the principal investigator from the company side. That's really why you would go the STTR route. The budget for most agencies, most of it goes to SBIR. So there's more competition, but also there's a larger budget on that end. Just one thing to clarify on that last point of the funding distribution for SBIR, yes, 100% goes to the small business. However, as I said before, you can still outsource up to 33% or 1/3 of your budget on your phase 1. You can outsource to other parties as long as they're in the US. So you can still work with with a university as an SBIR, but you can only outsource up to 33% of your budget. And then the next slide, what I mentioned before, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Well, you know, the way that each agency gives the awards or splits the budget, there's a phase 1 award. It's typically a smaller award where you're trying at this point to basically find out if what you're trying to propose is feasible or not. And the results of your phase 1 are going to determine whether a phase 2 makes sense. And if it does, well, the phase 2, that's where you get the largest chunk between these two of funding. That's going to help you now work on those, you know, testing and prototyping, and take your solution very close to commercialization. Now, the last phase, phase 2B, phase 3, one important thing to mention here is that these are funds, if you get one of these contracts or grants, that come from the agency themselves, right? So the SBR funding is only provided for a phase 1 and phase 2. If the agency is happy with the work that you've done and they have an option to apply for a phase 3, not every agency does that. That's going to be funding that comes directly from the agency. Each agency does it their own way, of course, because this is now their budget. So we're going to go on the next slide, I believe, on the Department of Defense and how they do it. And then, again, it's 11 agencies. We're not going to go through all of them because that would take too much time, but we're just going to mention the ones that are the most, let's say, have a larger budget, but at the same time are sort of what's known as open topic. So you will have better chances of finding a fit within those agencies. The Department of Defense, as I said, they take almost half of the entire SBR budget of the year. The idea here, obviously, you think, okay, DoD, they're going to be looking for solutions for war fighters, missiles, things like that, and that's true, but it's not entirely. It's not just that. One thing to keep in mind here is that, you know, some Air Force or Army bases, you know, they're almost like cities. I mean, the populations are of some of them are 10,000. So they would be interested in using technologies that are even related to education, obviously renewable energy, cybersecurity. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that idea that we have that the Department of Defense would be interested in. In short, what they're looking for is dual use technologies. So technologies that you're using in the private sector and you're going to adapt it to meet the needs of in this case, the military of the Department of Defense. So as we're gonna see on the next slide, they're gonna be, if you just have an idea, a concept, you haven't reached commercialization, you don't have any clients, it's very likely that the Department of Defense will pass on your technology. So in this case, it's very similar to, you know, what an investor, a private investor is looking for. And the reason being that they want to work quickly. And again, they want something that you've shown already works in the private sector, and they're going to be giving you funds to just repurpose it and adapt it to meet their needs. So they're now quite interested in high risk projects at this point. As you can see, the phase 1, you know, it's a big range. It can go from $75,000 all the way to $250,000, but it's a very short performance period. I mean, they give you up to 6 months. In some cases, some agencies, the Navy, for example, they might give you 12 months to complete your phase 2. But in average, it's going to be between 3 to 6 months, and then you can move on straight to your phase 2. Your phase 2 can even go up to $2 million. This is the final part where you're okay. Now we want this technology to be ready so that we can start using it as soon as you complete your phase 2, and we can ideally offer you a procurement contract, and they're buying your technology and your products already. This phase 2 can go from really a year to 2 years. And a very interesting part here with the Department of Defense is that once you're able to secure your first phase 1 and your phase 2, and you enter this, let's say, DoD space, then it's very likely, and a lot, let's say, a lot of doors open for you, in the sense that maybe you got a contract from the Air Force, but the Army is going to hear about this and what you're doing for the Air Force, so they're going to reach out to you and see if you might be able to develop something similar to meet their needs. So you have the opportunity to go directly to phase 2, skip phase 1. That's an option. And then phase 3, again, this depends now on each agency, and in this case, each branch does it in a different way. The Army has their own program. It's called Catalyst. This is only available for phase 2 awardees with the Army. You can get up to $15 million on a single contract. The Air Force does something similar. They have 2 programs. One is called TACFI, another one's StratFi. We don't have a lot of time to go into detail of all of them, but again, you can get additional funding there from this with these opportunities. And well, we already covered this part. The ideal candidate is someone that has already shown results, someone that, ideally you already have customers in the private sector. You have at least 3 W2 employees. So again, a more mature company and more advanced stage of development. And you have to show that there's a specific use case in the military. Yeah, you should have already raised some money, not just through grants, but also from investors. And this is not a must, but if you have some experience and with working with other primes in the defense sector, that obviously will increase your chances of success. And that's it from my side. I'll leave you with Mirella, who's going to cover the other half of the presentation.
Thank you, Fernando. Yeah, I mean, in the second part of the webinar, we're going to address other 2 federal agencies, funding opportunities. We are going to share also some guidelines on how to tackle, let's say, SBIR, STTR funds. We will also offer an overview on how at Inspiralia we do things, and we offer support to companies that are interested in having help in this journey, in this funding journey, federal funding journey. And then we will close with a quick overview on a few success stories. But I'm going to start now from the National Science Foundation SBIR STTR funding opportunity. This is normally the funding that are dedicated and reserved to early stage technologies that have a strong scientific and engineering background. Let's say that normally companies look at NSF as the first agency in their, let's say, technology readiness journey and funding discovery, because it's going to support this exploratory R&D work, and is going to lead then this trajectory up until the reaching of a proof of concept, and then the exploration of what's the commercial potential for a specific technology. Important to mention is that there are at least 30 topic areas within NSF. We normally say that there's a bottom-up approach that does apply to this type of funds. In reality, these focus areas are broad enough in order for any type of technologies to be covered. And yeah, the scope is that of fostering technologies that had this type of broad impact, I'd say multi-sector impact. Next slide. Okay. As for the case of the DoD, also NSF, and also in general, the major agencies are structured in this scheme of the 3 phases. Important to mention is that Each of them are mandatory. You cannot skip phase 1 in order to jump directly to a phase 2. That's not really the case. You need to start from a phase 1 and then building up an application that is going to cover, let's say, a maximum of 12 months. You're going to get funds for a top of $305,000. And in this phase 1, you are going to put together a work program that will allow you to continue doing R&D, to dedicate specific actions to scientific and engineering tasks and developments. And you will eventually end phase 1 with a test bed of your technology and a proof of concept on the validity of this technology. Once you have completed this phase 1, then you're entitled to apply to a phase 2. And in the phase 2, let's say that you can continue the work that you started in the phase 1 in terms of concept development, maybe in collaboration with stakeholders that are going to support you in the further validation and possibly integration maybe of your technology with their technology or their platform, all the steps that will lead you to a minimal viable product, which is going to be the ending point, let's say, of a phase 2 NSF application. To do this, you have at least 24 months and a budget of a maximum of $1,250,000. That is what it is expected then from phase 1 and phase 2. Once you complete as you are approaching the end of a phase 2, then you can look at the third phase, which is a phase 2B. And this phase 2B is going to be is bridging, let's say, the gap between this technology development and then the market uptake, the commercialization effort. This consists on matching funds, and it follows the rationale of 2 to 1. Let's say that to get this phase 2B funds, you need to have reached or need to have collected private investors' funds for a maximum of $1 million in order to get half of it as matching funds from the agency. So this is the rationale that applies in this third phase for the NSF. Important to mention is that last year the program has embraced the fast track scheme, which is offering actually the possibility of submitting a phase 1 and phase 2 at once. The budget available actually is anything more than the sum of the phase 1 and phase 2 traditional budgets. But the advantage here is that you're squeezing the gap between the ending of a phase 1 and then the starting of a phase 2, because they are going to be approved together in this fast track scheme. The downside is that the criteria, the eligibility criteria to access this funding scheme are pretty strict. But we can go back to this maybe if there's some curiosity about it later on. Moving on, I'm going to offer an overview on what's the ideal candidate of the NSF SBIR STTR program. Normally, we're talking of companies that recently incorporate, maybe in the past couple of years. The size of this company, maximum 10 employees all in all. Budgets of funds that have been collected so far, less than 10 million. I mean, I've seen companies even with less than 1 million, or they've raised maybe $500,000 or less than that, and that have been funded in their phase 1 at least. In terms of TRL, you need to have collected some initial evidence in lab, in a control environment. Since we said that the ending point is going to be first a proof of concept and then an MVP that is validated in a controlled industrial environment. The target of this program is that of supporting R&D plans that have never been attempted before. So the uniqueness trait is quite relevant in this respect. The agency is not going to support anything that looks incremental, neither for the company itself nor compared with the state of the art. The scope is that of supporting the validation and the validation of the idea product fit. So the fact that a technology can work and has a specific market with a clear interest out there. And normally, companies that are awarded an SBIR, STTR, NSF have never made an attempt under NSF, SBIR, STTR before, so never been funded before under this scheme. We going now to jump to the next agency. That's, I'd say, is the other side of the moon. Maybe it's the agency that is mostly known, maybe after DoD and alongside NSF, is the NIH, the National Institute of Health. The NIH is supporting biomedical, healthcare-related research that is focusing on preclinical studies in human and clinical trials. NSF, for instance, is targeting, or the ending point, let's say, is the clinical studies in animals. But when we're talking about clinical studies in humans, then it's NIH. This is going to be a matter falling within the scope of NIH. And projects that are supported by NIH have a clear clinical application. We're talking about drug development type of project, diagnostic, therapeutic intervention. These are some of the things that are going to be supported by the NIH. As for the case of the NSF, also NIH is structured in three phases. I'm going to go through this quite quickly because they really resonate to the NSF ones. But you're going to have a phase 1 that is normally going to support this clinical planning, I'd say clinical studies, because it's going to cover a maximum of 12 months type of project. And so in this length, and considering also the maximum budget at stake, which is $306,000, that's the maximum, let's say, that you can get covered in a phase 1. It's important to say that this 306,000 can vary from institute to institute, because within the NIH there's a serious number of small institutes that do compose this NIH framework, and this amount can vary from institute to institute. Once you have a phase 1 then funded and executed, then you're ready to apply to the phase 2. And in the phase 2, you can start working on maybe stage 1 clinical trial. And it's something that we all know it takes time, it takes resources, but the maximum budget per phase 2 project, NIH project, is of 2 million. Again, it can slightly vary from institute to institute. These are projects that are lasting normally 2 years. And considering that these clinical trial stages and phases are taking longer than 2 years, in the phase 2B or 3, you have the chance actually to continue working and to continue boosting the research that you have and the clinical trial that you have started in the phase 2. So let's say that it's a continuation, the phase 3 of the phase 2 that you have got supported. Also, NIH has a fast track scheme. It's the precise sum of the funding that you can get from a phase 1 and phase 2. And yeah, that's another similarity with the NSF. Few things again about the ideal candidate, the ideal NIH candidate. In this case, we have let's say slightly more mature type of company, maybe that have raised more than $10 million in the past year. We have companies that incorporated maybe up to 10 years ago maximum. The size of the company is similar to that of the NSF, a small group of researchers. In terms of TRL, that's they might go the project between TRL 1, which is normally the starting point, and ending then at the TRL 4. So having like this clinical study that in animals that have been completed and then been ready for in humans. For an NIH, it's always good to have some preliminary data coming from researchers that have been run, from papers that do belong to the different researchers that have been recently published or that are going to be published during the execution of the NIH application. The scope is that of having hypotheses to be tested and having a clear outline of the project and what are the targets that the project is going to provide, the aims that the project is going to provide. Normally, beneficiary of NIH, SBIR, STTR funds, awards, had already had other NIH, SBIR funds approved. So it's kind of a recurring strategy for NIH applicants. Now I'm going to offer, let's say, a few suggestions, maybe a guideline, the moment you are approaching this SBIR, STTR journey. First thing first, of course, it's important to get familiar with the federal agency pages dedicated to the open funding opportunities, seeing whether are there opportunities that do match your technology or some ambition that you are working and you are developing, let's say, for your or you plan to develop for your technology. Once you have identified this, that there's like an open funding for your technology, then it's time to put together a team and a network of support that is going to assist with the preparation of the application. You just not have to invest on technical resources or rely on technical people, but also on the commercial on the business developer, let's say, of your company, in order to provide a thorough view, because the application is not just dealing with the work program, the technical work program, but also on what is going to be the impact that your technology is going to have out there. And so and when we're talking of impact, there's several types of impact. There's social impact, there is an economic impact, there is an environmental impact, even though right now maybe it's not the same relevance that it used to have. Also, you might want to consider the support of external consultants, grants consultants, such as Inspiralia, for instance, because these are no easy deed. I mean, it takes time and it takes resources, the preparation of an application, an SBIR, STTR application. And yeah, because it is a competitive type of process, and moreover, you need to dedicate time, you need to prepare things beforehand, you need to get aligned to what are going to be your goals for your phase 1, for your phase 2, and having a clear planning, a clear outline for the calendar of your actions, ambition, impact, etc. So it's understood that because of all these things, maybe the support also of an external entity could be of great help. And speaking, of an external consultancy, I'm going to show you what are the services, let's say, that Inspiralia is providing. This is really a short and a quick overview. But we can start, and how we do things together with our company, with our clients. See a starting point in the scouting of the funding opportunities. We do this for our clients, with our clients. We identify the opportunity or opportunities, because it's not uncommon that we had supported companies throughout their journey, their parallel journey between different federal agencies. It's something that is possible, is viable. If a company has resources, that's something, of course, that we can definitely do. And once we have identified then that there's like open opportunities, open funding for the companies, then we're ready to move on to the preparation of the application. We share dedicated resources that are going to assist with the extensive writing of the application for our clients. Truth is that recently we have also offered editing. We can offer editing also of writing produced by our clients, but it's something, again, that we can define together. Final thing is that we have a dedicated admin division that can support with the registration of your credentials, submission of your application, any communication with the program directors, with the agency itself. So it's going to offer a coverage also in that sense. Few things maybe regarding Inspiralia. We haven't mentioned this at the beginning. I know that it sounds weird that we're talking about Inspiralia at the end, let's say, of the presentation, but I hope that this will stick. So Inspiralia US is basically the American division of Inspiralia Group, which is an entity that dates back to 2005, the starting of its activity. We have incorporated our business in the States 8 years ago, more or less. We have premises in Florida. We have a clear core in the provision of help with respect to the SBIR, STTR program, not limited to that, but that's normally the starting and the test bed, I'd say, for our skills, for our services, and for our companies as well. We have a broad expertise that is covering, let's say, the major focus areas available out there. And that has allowed us to support more than 250 companies so far, helping them raising more than $3 billion. Thanks also to an extensive network of partners, more than 200 all over the States and even further. And the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce is, of course, one of them. Final thing, I know that maybe we are taking most of the time, just a quick overview regarding our success stories. These success stories actually are related to companies that have not been successful only in one specific type of funds for one federal agencies. But for the case, for instance, of Kersica, the first one, we have supported them accessing not just DoD funding opportunities, but also NSF. They had this broad project that consists on next generation lithium-ion battery technologies. And we managed to break it down into different modules and build projects around each component, like the polymer electrolyte, the cathode, the anode. And this has been key. Million after million, let's say, we are getting there, to this big picture of this next generation lithium-ion battery. Same things for Stratus Lab, Pennsylvania company. We have helped them accessing NSF and also Army funds. They developed this wearable stethoscope that is capable to detect and monitor a lung acoustic signal to a predictive algorithm that it was proprietary. And finally, we have eye therapy. We supported them through NIH and also NSF, and they are developing a speech generation communication system, supporting particularly autism spectrum disorder, so groups that have this verbal communication disability. I'd say that this is it from our end. You have here our contacts, mine and Fernando's, and we're happy to take your questions.
Thank you so much, Mirella and Fernando, for all the valuable insights that you have shared so far. Before we open the floor for the questions to the attendees, I would like to advise to everyone that you can submit your questions using the question tab or preguntas, if you have it on your control panel in Spanish, that is on the right side of your screen. So we already have some questions over here. The first one, what type of integration are most common among your clients?
Mirella, you want to take it or should I?
What type of integration?
Yes, what type of integrations are most common among your clients?
Probably what type of technologies, maybe. So
Technology.
No, I mean it really, it's hard to say one. Maybe renewable energies, because we have it can be applied to several agencies, but we have a whole division of NIH team that only works on health related.
Yeah, I'd say also life science, biotechnologies, health related also technologies, healthcare. I mean, there's room under NSF, DOD, NIH, of course. This is also quite recurring. Also AI. AI now is very much popular and is cross-cutting all the different agencies. I mean, for AI, I also need to mention IT solution, new verticals, digital technologies, which is broader maybe.
I would say we're tech agnostic in that sense. We don't, and it wouldn't make sense for us to only focus on one type of technology, because that would just close a lot of doors for our clients and obviously for us. So we try and have a team that covers all areas that match at least the agencies. As we were sharing at the beginning of the webinar, Department of Energy, NIH, NSF. So it really we try and cover everything.
Got it. Thank you so much. Next question. What is the high level cost of Inspiralia?
So we work on depends, because again, 11 agencies, each one, they have the budget, but they decide to apply, or the requirements for a phase 1 and phase 2 are different. I guess the way I can put this, there is always an upfront cost that can go anywhere from $500 if it's a very short application, all the way to $8,000 if it's a fast track application that requires a full phase 1 and a full phase 2. And then everything else is performance based. And again, this can change from 7 to 15% of the award size, and it changes depending on how much work or how much involvement you need from us once you get the award. And also, do you want us to write the full proposal, or do you want us to just edit it, have a look and revise it and give you our recommendations? And then once you get the award, as I was saying, do you want to take care of all of the administrative part and dealing with the agency? It's a 2-year project, or do you want Inspiralia to help you there? So then, depending on that, the award size or the success fee, in this case, the administration fee, will be higher. So it depends. I mean, what I do want to say is we're startup friendly in that case, that we go on a project by project basis rather than charging you a monthly fee to work with us for this period of time and hopefully we find an opportunity. No, we first look at what's available in terms of funding opportunities. If we find the match for you, then okay, let's sign an agreement for that specific application, and then and that's it. If you're happy with us, we can then look for more opportunities, find another one, and then write a separate contract in that sense.
Thank you so much. What concrete benefits have your clients seen after integrating their systems? What are the benefits that your clients have after integrating their systems?
I mean, the main benefit I would say it's access to non-dilutive funding, and especially there are companies that are, most of them have not been able to raise money from investors at this stage, or if they have, very little. So the main benefit is going to be, okay, now you have a company that's helping you develop your business plan and an R&D roadmap that's concise, that makes sense, that can be feasible, and then ideally, start winning grants, and this way not only raising funds, but at the same time making your company more attractive to investors.
Of course. Another question: how much funding have you raised in US?
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the presentation, but we have supported companies raising more or less $3 billion all in all. I think something even more than that, because we need to update to the figures of the beginning of this year, of the past months. But yeah, that is the figure all in all that we can mention.
Do you work with family offices for dilutive stage or of those projects beyond seed capital?
I would have to see. Yeah, I guess the best in this case, and I don't know if we mentioned it during the presentation, it's to look at case by case. We can offer a free validation of your project. So reach out to either me. You have the contact information here of Carlota, but you also had on the other side mine and Mirella, and we can look at each specific project and have a one-to-one conversation, and then we can see if this is something that makes sense or not. At the end of the day, again, and going back to the question about our business model, we don't win if our clients don't win. So we want to make sure beforehand that there is really a good fit here, and that the likelihood of success is high enough to make this worth it. So we're happy to do for everybody attending today, those what we call validation meetings, and let you know if it makes sense for your company or not.
Thank you. What common mistakes do companies make when trying to digitalize a process without a clear vision?
Well, I mean, in some cases they just don't read the indication and the guidelines thoroughly, and that's something, I mean, that we noticed. They missed maybe deadlines because they didn't know that, for instance, in the case of a phase 2, you can submit your phase 2 within 2 years from the beginning of the phase 1. So we had companies that missed that opportunities because they haven't read this clearly, and so these are, let's say, mistakes that eventually are costing you 1 million and more than 1 million all in all. So these are the things that one of the things most recurring, I'd say, from my hand, that we had a company that missed their chances because of a distraction, let's say.
Thank you so much, Mirella. I have another question here. If a company is in a mature state, could you still qualify for R&D grants if needed continues to invest in R&D, or it is just for startups?
So a more mature company, not really. I mean, as we said, it depends on what we mean by mature company. As I mentioned before, I mean, companies that have been incorporated in the past 10 years are still ideal candidates. In the case of the, particularly NIH, I believe also this can be the case of DoD. It's true that in the specific case of NSF, we noticed that the majorities of companies that have been supported are companies that have been recently incorporated. But there are exceptions, of course, because there could be more mature companies that are kind of differentiating their business. And so they want to invest, or they are searching, let's say, for funds in order to support what are more risky type of R&D lines. And they can be one of the companies that could be supported also under the NSF. Of course, we need to understand what's their current financial position, why they can't use, for instance, funds or revenues that they have already generated to support this novel business line. And we need to be convincing, let's say, in justifying why they need this federal funds for this new experimental unit or product or technology they're working on too.
Jose Arauz is asking if he can get a copy of the recording. And yes, after the webinar, you're gonna receive an email with the recorded session. You also, for all the attendees, you also can check on our YouTube channel. We've updated there. We upload different webinars that we have over the year. Let me see, we have more questions over here. I understand you always signed NDA before having the first exploratory conversation.
Correct.
Oscar
Yeah,
Gonzalez, he is asking that.
Yeah, we do. I mean, especially if the client requests that, we can always send a mutual NDA before they call. No problem at all.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it depends of the stage that the company is, but according to your experience, how long it will take for you to have a better overview of the stage of the company for start to making a process for and do all the applications?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the validation itself is something that we can do within a week. You know, we have the call with the company, and then we will need to see some material, right? Typically, what you have in an executive summary or an investor's pitch. We're trying to understand mostly what's the R&D work that they want to perform. A lot of times they want to hide companies, startups, you know, the challenges that they have, at least with investors. For us, that's what we need. That's where we can find potential opportunities. And yeah, I mean, within 1 week, we should be able to gather all the feedback from our teams on the DoD side and also the other agencies.
Thank you, Fernando. Another question from Oscar. Can the grants to be used for patenting?
Yeah, I can firmly say that this is possible as far as you started. I mean, this is possible particularly in the case of the NSF. As far as you have an initial freedom to operate that you run, and that is proving that your technology is competitive, is unique, that you own something that nobody else owns, then, I mean, you can possibly patent your technology during, for instance, the execution of your phase 1 NSF.
Thank you, Mirella. Do you believe AI will radically change process workflows in the coming years?
That's almost a philosophical type of question. To a certain extent, it is already, and it somehow has an impact also on our work. But we're noticing that the agency are containing the usage of AI. particularly in the case of NIH, because of the high incidence of application coming from each of the researchers. They put not just a limit to the number of applications that each researcher can submit, but also put an hard stop on the usage of AI. So they're saying that no application where they will detect the usage of AI through their AI detection software is going to be supported by NIH funds. This is not happening yet, I'd say, in the case of DoD and NSF, but I mean, we are closely looking at the evolution in this sense. And normally we are very transparent in the usage of these tools, and we keep clients informed, and we don't do anything against also better judgment of our clients or the willingness of the clients. If they don't want us to use it, we don't. If they first hand are using it, then of course, I mean, this is a green light also for us maybe to use it, but not to produce content, to revise it, maybe to go through a grammar brush out of the content produced. That's the maximum that we normally do and what we use AI for.
Thank you, Mirella. We are actually getting to the end of the webinar. I know that Mirella has a meeting after this. Maybe you are free to go, Mirella. Thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate the presentation. And if you don't mind, thank you. If you don't mind, Fernando, we can do the last question with you. Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem at all.
In your experience, what are the possible downsides for startups after receiving this type of funding, and how can they be mitigated?
Right, so I would say, depending again on the size of the team, this is something that will, getting one of these grants. It's not just like, okay, I got the money now. You actually have to execute the project, and some of these projects, again, if it's a phase 2, can go up to 2 years. So you need to make sure you have the team available to do it. At the end of the day, and one key factor that I don't think we mentioned so far is that some agencies provide a grant, some others provide a contract. At the end of the day, it's still non-dilutive funding. But for instance, Department of Energy or Department of Defense, they give you the funds as you meet certain milestones. And so if you're not able to deliver, you won't be able to get the funds. So at the end of the day, you are trying to develop a solution for these agencies, and you still need to deliver. Other agencies, again, NSF, for instance, it's more of an earlier stage. They assume more risks in the sense that, if you're not able to deliver, or at least let's say you realize what you tried to do on paper on the proposal, it's actually not feasible, then they understand that. I mean, it's a research project, but some other agencies, they work as a contract. So that's, I get the downside. I mean, you're getting non-dilutive funding, but you still have to work on this. I mean, it's like a client that you have, and depending on it's gonna take time. And a lot of involvement from your team, and it could potentially distract the company from pursuing other opportunities in the private sector as well. So yeah, I guess it requires to strategize and be able to complete this while doing your other activities outside of the grants.
Yes, I understand, and also I understand that you, as Inspiralia, you can also be behind and trying to keep the on track all the steps and phases that the company has to go through, all the process and after the process as well.
Correct. Yeah. And again, that's the idea. What I said before, with once you get the grant, you can also hire services to help you with all the administrative part. So then, once you do that, in a way, the way we want our clients to see us is an extension of their team with everything related to grant. Now, we're not going to go in the lab with you and work on the actual development of the technology, but all of the paperwork, everything, even the invoices that you send to the agencies, we can prepare those for you so that you can really just focus on the technology development.
Thank you, Fernando. And thank you, everyone. We already get to the end of the webinar, and I hope that we are leaving with fresh ideas and practical insights to take for your business further. Thank you so much again. And if you want to rewatch this webinar, you're gonna receive it right now after the webinar ends. You're gonna have it in your email, and you can, like I said before, you can also check on our website at www.spainuschamber.com for see and check what are the other events that we have. Thank you for your time, Fernando, and I hope to see you soon in another session.
Thank you, Mirella.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.